budget process has taken another step forward with the passage of the House Republican plan in the State House. Let's spend 5 minutes on the details with State Representative Scott Petrie. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Again, the House passed basically Governor Corbett's budget with some changes. What are those changes?
The primary changes are restoration of part of the educational money. The House budget spends more than last year in state dollars on education. It's less overall because we lost the federal stimulus money, and so it was impossible to replace that $1.2 billion without raising taxes, something none of us are really willing to do, particularly when you're talking about this level of funding. The taxes you need are really a sales tax or an income tax. A Marcellus Shale, which I support, tax doesn't get you to where you would need to be. So we didn't want to do that, but our priorities were to try to get schools back to the level they were pre-stimulus, at least on basic education funding. And we eliminated some other line items which are important, but we haven't said to the schools you can't run those programs. We've just said you've got to spend it within your basic ed funding. So that was a priority. The colleges was another priority. The cut was proposed by the governor was a 52% cut. We rolled it back to a 25% cut to try to help families with young people going to college. And that was a major priority for us. And then there were many other priorities, smaller line items, where the goal was to get to a 10% cut overall. Some had to be more, some were at that 10% level. So for instance, burn centers and the like, places that deliver services to people directly in the community, those kinds of things we did get back in the budget. It was very difficult to do. There's not a lot of room or play here, and there's not a lot of money available. We, I think, have to be very careful and conservative in our approach because we have some major issues coming. We owe the doctors at least $850 million plus interest on this M-Care, because a couple years ago we took money out of the M-Care fund and the courts have decided, as I knew they would, that it was wrong. We owe the federal government $3.5 billion and growing for unemployment compensation. When those benefits were extended, they were important benefits for recipients, but it's a loan, and so we have to repay it. And so now the problem is, how do you repay that $3.5 billion that is growing? Most of the ideas seem to be, well, we'll just have the employers who employ people pay more. Well, that's anti-incentive for growing the economy, and so we have to figure out how to unwind that. And then, of course, you have the ever-increasing pension contribution issues. So to me, if there's money left at the end of this year, it will be because we roll back expenditures during the year knowing that we were running short. Suddenly the projections start moving a little better. We're going to need that money just to cover basics next year. You know, the loyal opposition kept saying, oh, it's $1 billion because they take $500 million and they double it. I wish I could double down my money, but it never works for me. So they double it. Well, really, if it's a $500 million, quote, surplus at the end of the year, that's about 2 weeks of normal government expenditures. I don't know of any business in my community that would operate on only a 2-week reserve, remembering that all those fund balances that we used to have now all been zeroed out. So there's no more tricks, there are no more games. We have to send a message to the administration, look, you have to live within these means and you're going to have to go find the savings. Just like businesses and households, you know, maybe you looked at your credit card bill and said, hey, we can't have a $200 balance. You're going to have to, the entire family meets and says, you're going to have to keep it down to 100, 150 in charges for the month because we can't afford it. You're going to have to take your car and trade it in and get a lesser costly car. Those are the decisions families have made. Those are the things we need to do as state government. And I am convinced that if we cut the line items, and the managers of those line items will find ways to save the money.
Believe it or not, we're almost out of time, but just quickly, what are some of your priorities for the budget, and will it be done on time?
Education is clearly a priority. College is clearly a priority. 97% of my students go on to college, and so this is an extreme issue for them. Those are priority items. Human services are a priority, but with a slightly different idea. I think that there's a tremendous amount of wasted money in the administrative cost. I've looked at line items. Our administrative cost of delivering the services are too much, which means that there's a waiting list because you're spending too much on trying to get the services to people. And I think we have to find a better way, a cheaper way to deliver the same services.
Well, good luck as the process moves forward.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's all the time we have for today's program. If you have any questions about this year's budget, please feel free to contact Representative Petry at his local office or through his website. The contact information will be shown in just a moment. Thanks for spending 5 minutes with State Representative Scott Petry.